Welcome to the Federalist Files. On today's show, San Diego School District pushes white privilege classes for teachers, the GOP makes historical gains in state governments, and finally, more voter fraud information. But first, a message from your president.
Well, now we call it the fake news and suppression news. I use the word suppression because now they got a new thing going. This happened since Hunter. Because we were killing him on Hunter, stealing money from every country. He was a human vacuum cleaner, and it was hurting them badly. So all of a sudden, big tech, together with their partner, the Democrats, and their partner, the fake news media, they decide, under no circumstances will we ever talk about it again. So you have 95% of the media, you could have them be Jesse James and walk into the bank with a gun, hold them up, give me all your money, and they won't talk about it. And it's hard to have a scandal if they don't talk about it. Other than the New York Post.
That joke by Trump, the human vacuum, works in one of two ways because Hunter Biden was snorting all the white stuff, the white drugs, as well as sucking up all of the money out of China or the Chinese enterprise, whatever they were using, in order to bribe a Joe Biden. And now Trump, what's funny? What I do these show notes, or rather, the show notes I would like to call them. I call them the show notes because that's the information I find. It's the information I look through, verify, analyze, and then I put it up in a organized format on these videos, as well as I throw it all in the description as well. So while I was doing the show notes, usually it takes me a couple days of preparation, 1 or 2 days. The first day is me getting the information. The information continues to flow in for the first day or two, and then I do my video clips. I get all my information for the show. And today, if anyone that's familiar with the YouTube, the current YouTube situation, and that's why I said this clip ages very well, because this was over last weekend in Georgia, where Trump went and he held a rally to try to get a higher voter turnout for this Senate race that's up and coming. Now, it ages well because today YouTube just announced that if anybody puts up a video on YouTube with voter fraud claims, they're going to take it down, I believe, at this point, starting today. So what's today, the 9th of December? They're going to start taking down people's clips. That's what they're telling everybody. I don't know if this is going to go as strikes as well on your record with YouTube. Eventually, once you get like 3 copyright infringement strikes, they throw you out. From what I understand, they completely cancel your channel. So now we are seeing the full-on social media suppression and shutdown of conservative voices. They're telling you what you can and can't talk about now. And this has to be some sort of a violation, I would imagine, of the First Amendment. And that's another thing. First off, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. It seems like I've had more and more viewership over the last couple of podcasts, and I want to just say I greatly appreciate it. I want to get that out of the way. And yeah, this is why this is relatable to today, because, and also additionally, this next weekend special that's coming out, everyone stay tuned for that. I'm going to have a lot of information. There's going to be a General Flynn interview. There's going to be some Chinese Hunter Biden stuff. It's going to be intense. I have a lot of information packed up. This show that I'm doing now, it was stuff from almost not last week, but last weekend, I guess. And then there's also a segment from a Tucker Carlson show that I want to show everybody. And then there's also voting irregularities, expert statistician. So as you can see, everything that's going on with YouTube, I do not care. I will continue to speak freely. If they decide to take down my content, I am on Rumble as well. I will just post the clip on Rumble, or I will natively post it on Facebook like I've been doing. I'll just upload it straight to Facebook. Now, usually when one of these big social media companies, when YouTube makes a move, when Facebook or Twitter, when they all make a move, they all usually move in unison. They are working in uniformity with each other. They're colluding with each other, even though people like to act like they don't. They do. Just like when they banned Alex Jones, they banned him on everything. So YouTube doing this may also be coming from Facebook as well. This might be coming from Twitter or Instagram in the near future. So everyone just stay cognizant of that. That could be coming down the pike soon. for everybody else. But, I will, like I said, I will continue to speak freely. I do not care. This channel is not large enough. I do not bring in any type of revenue from what I do at this point right now. And even if I did, I still have a day job, so I do not care. I will not be silenced. Other conservatives as well probably feel the same way. We will not be silenced. We will not allow people to depict what we can and can't talk about in a free country. That's not how this system works. So now I got that out of the way, I want to talk about, now, as Trump said, oh, he's a vacuum cleaner, he's snorting up, and that's why everyone started laughing, because they didn't think about the money. They thought about the cocaine that Hunter Biden's been snorting up the last so many years of his life. And on top of that, Trump looked like he was in grand form on, I think it was Saturday. He's classic Trump, just ripping Democrats up and down, talking about the voter fraud that's going on, different litigation. I mean, in Pennsylvania recently, I think yesterday, what they decided, the Supreme Court decided not to see the case, and then now Texas now is suing all the states. The reason that Texas is suing all those individual states is they know that between one state suing another, any interstate affairs like that, it is direct jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, meaning they don't go to a circuit court or a lower court and then appeal up to the Supreme Court. It just goes straight to the Supreme Court. So this is an attempt to mainline a case straight to the Supreme Court. Now, whether or not the Supreme Court will take the case is, who knows? There's a lot of hack jobs on the Supreme Court that are really becoming much more partisan, and their true colors are starting and beginning to bleed and show to the audience and to the American people of who they really are and what they are all about, if they're really actually about upholding the Constitution. But that I will cover on Saturday. That's more information I'll get to on Saturday. But right now, I want to show you a video, and this became a viral video around, I want to say, the weekend, maybe Saturday or Sunday. It became much more viral. This is the Los Angeles restaurant owner. She owns the Pineapple Hill Saloon, and play that tape.
I'm losing everything. Everything I own is being taken away from me. And they set up a movie company right next to my outdoor patio, which is right over here. And people wonder why I'm protesting and why I have had enough. They have not given us money and they have shut us down. We cannot survive. My staff cannot survive. Look at this. Tell me that this is dangerous, but right next to me as a slap in my face, that's safe. This is safe. 50 feet away. This is dangerous. Mayor Garcetti and Gavin Newsom is responsible for every single person that doesn't have unemployment, that does not have a job, and all the businesses that are going under. And we need your help.
So that woman goes by the name, that is Angela Marsden. That is the owner of the Pineapple Hill Saloon and Grill. This was a longer video. It was about 3 minutes, but for sake of time, I cut it down a little bit. A little background information. That's she spent $80,000 on that setup outside, and Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, shut it down, said it wasn't possible to have outdoor dining even at this point. So you can't do indoor or outdoor. She can only do takeout at her restaurant. She put $80,000 worth of renovations into this new outdoor dining area, and then she gets shut down by the mayor. And then right across the street from her, just so everybody knows, it was a film catering site by the Hollywood elitist clown hack jobs. That's what they set up across the street. And of course, Mayor Garcetti, he approved that because look what the Democrat Party represents. They represent Hollywood, the liberal elitist class. That's what they are. So of course, those are his friends. He's connected to them. Yeah, sure. So they set up it was a film catering site, which was feeding the cast and the crew of the NBC crime dramedy, which is like a drama comedy, I guess. Good Girls, it's called, under a city-issued permit, the New York Times reported. So the city's fine with issuing permits, and I'm sure there was some sort of setup to an Eric Garcetti. There's probably some sort of connection. I'm sure there's a lobbying going on. Those people are fine to set up, but right across maybe 20 feet away, this woman cannot run her business that she's been shut down for so many months at this point, and she's been struggling, just like a lot of small business owners. I mean, we had this exact same conversation in the last current events video with the Staten Island owners, and I have something on that right after this segment. So now from what I read, then I looked up the web, what is it called, the IMDb of For Good Girls, and what it is, it's a story about how two women like don't have jobs or something, and then it's funny because it's actually kind of ironic. It's like two women that got laid off from their jobs, and then they go and they try to like rob a bank or something so trivial, and something just a classic like stupid Hollywood show, like just some dumb NBC show that they would have up that really have no meaning. They're insipid. They are a lack originality. Just one of those stupid shows that they would put up for you. So this woman, what they ended up doing is we were able to raise $84,000 from what I've seen here early Sunday. People were able to raise $84,000 on the GoFundMe, which is good for her. But this is a representation of what's going on with small business owners all around the country. And the Democrat Party is doing the bidding of the big businesses, and the big businesses are always able to stay open, or the Hollywood elite class is always able to stay open. And this is something that has been going on with a lot of people I see on Facebook, on Twitter. It seems like everyone that's gainfully employed are the ones that are attempting to tell people to stay home, or say we need longer and further shutdowns to stop the spread. And then when the spread is not stopped because it's been rampant right now, and I think it's partially, like I said, it's because of the weather more than anything. I think that has a serious effect. And then when people aren't leaving their houses, they're not getting vitamin D, and vitamin D is essential for your immune system function. And it's all of those factors that play into a rise. It has nothing to do with mask compliance, because mask compliance at this point is at an all-time high. So we are doing, as a society, we're doing everything right, and we're trying to do our best. And then it seems like the politicians, as well as the people that are gainfully employed, are just pushing further and further shutdowns and lockdowns of businesses, because it doesn't. They feel like it does not affect them as long as they're employed. Oh, what's the big deal? You'll have to shut your business. You'll have to completely get rid of it. You have to liquidate it, and you have to sell it off, or you will you'll be filing for bankruptcy because you don't have anything left to even pay. Oh, it's okay. You're being selfish. Think about this. They're calling you selfish for wanting freedom. They are selfish because they want to feel protected. They want to have a false sense of security and a false blanket of security or safety because the government says so. That's selfish, and they want to take your freedom away from you. They want to take your freedom away from you, so they have a false sense of security and a false safety blanket just for that reason. So that, in and of itself, that makes them selfish. They call you selfish for wanting freedom. They're selfish for trying to take your freedom away to give themselves security. It's garbage. And it's always it's people that are employed that are the ones pushing this, because if you're not employed, you're looking to go back to work, and you need to pay your bills at this point. You've only had one stimulus check of $1,200. It's all the government's been able to do for us. And like that last video that I had, you had the gentleman from Michigan saying that all the money went to special interest groups, and he's absolutely right. Special interests, as well as trying to pay off state governments. We have our own governor holding $1.5 billion, which was last reported, $1.5 billion of the $2.4 billion that we were originally given in May. So that's what's going on right now from our politicians, our political class, as well as the Hollywood elitist clowns that think that small businesses shutting down is not a big deal because it does not affect them, because they are worth millions of dollars, and the middle to lower class is meaningless to them. They laugh on you, they spit down on you, and that's really what they think of you. And that goes on to my next segment here. I have a video of Pete Davidson, and it's him criticizing his fellow Staten Islanders, because he is a native of Staten Island. Check this out.
One guy at the protest even gave a speech where he literally compared not being able to drink indoors to being Jewish during the Holocaust, which must have been awkward for the people there who had to suddenly pretend they believed in the Holocaust.
So I
I take it that you found these protests frustrating.
Yeah, man, they're making us look like babies. You know it's bad when even people in Boston are like, drink at home, you queers.
And do you think that people should stay at home until the pandemic gets better?
Yeah, everyone wants to go have fun, but there's plenty of stuff you could do at home. Like use your official Pete Davidson vibrator.
So that's the very funny Pete Davidson. He's gotten a lot of flack. He's done a lot of things that politically are not savvy of him. I understand it's a comedy show, Saturday Night Live, but at this point it's been nothing but just ripping Republicans, ripping Trump fest all of the time. And he kind of took a cheap shot at his fellow Staten Islanders here, which isn't really too respectful. I think it was a video I was listening to of one of the guys responding to him saying, yeah, well, that's what you guys do. That's what the Hollywood elite do. You frown down at us, or you kick us while we're down, the small business owners of Staten Island. And that's a general summation of really what the Hollywood elitists as well as the liberal elitists think of the working class person or the working class Trump voter or the middle class or lower class individual. So this is something that I didn't cover, but I should have before I played up Pete Davidson. The Pineapple Hill, after that video came out of that saloon owner, Miss Marsden, this is what's his name's response was. The mayor, Eric Garcetti's response was, and I quote, "My heart goes out to Miss Marsden and the workers at the Pineapple Hill Saloon who have to comply with state and county public health restrictions that close outdoor dining." He continued, "No one likes these restrictions, but I do support them as our hospital ICU beds fill to capacity and cases have increased 500%. We must stop this virus before it kills thousands of more Angelenos." End quote. So the problem here is this is just common hypocrisy. He doesn't even acknowledge that he allowed the other people at NBC to set up their camps. Once word got out, they took all this down. All of the whole dining hall, the outdoor dining hall, because it was common hypocrisy, and that's the response that you get when she says, I have not gotten any support from my mayor. I've gotten just nothing. You get nothing from him. You don't get any type of permit to be able to at least run your business. You don't get any type of payout or stimulus money to help you or facilitate you during this very hard time. You get nothing. That's the answer you get. You guys, oh, well, too bad they have to comply because, we've had an increase of 500% in the ICU beds. When I worked in a hospital, the way that hospital beds work is at all times they do not leave open beds. The point is you want about a 90 to 95% capacity of your beds, and you want common flow where they're going in and out. And we had different units where if we actually filled up, we would just open that new unit and we would have more, we would call people in for, nurses or medical staff in for overtime, or they would hire more clinical care technicians and nurses. That's how it works, because a business doesn't work if you have. It's the same thing as running a bar. If it's the same thing with this 25% capacity, that's why it does not work. You need to have around 90 to 95% capacity in these hospitals. That is the point. If you were full in these hospitals, we had the TCU, which was the transition care unit, but it was used as a utility unit in which if we filled up beds in the emergency department or in the South Building medical unit, then we would go over to that TCU. We would change over to a transitional care unit. So that's the point. These hospitals, they have extra material, they have extra space, but the media is portraying it like they do not have extra space, like they're totally filled up. And then if you go talk to anybody that works at a hospital, because I still have my former co-workers that work there, and I will consult with them about this, and they tell me the same thing. They go, oh, no, it's not a big deal, no big deal. We're just on serious lockdown. Everyone's always sanitizing. We're staying extra clean. We're doing all those protocols and precautionary measures that we need to as hospital staff. But we're not completely overrun, and there are hospitals right now that are going out of business because they prepared too much for this event to happen, and they bought up too much bed, they hired too much personnel, and then people deterred. The whole corona coronavirus deterred people from actually going to the hospital to get real care that they needed, people that needed cancer screenings and things of that nature, because they were afraid of catching coronavirus, or if they caught it, or if they were there, they didn't want to have to do like a 14-day quarantine. No one has the time or the money to sit around for 2 weeks and not get any money or not go to work. People just, it's not realistic. It's not a realistic policy from the politicians. They've done a terrible job handling this, and they've done nothing but bring up unrealistic policies that do not work for the average working class citizen. They only work for the Hollywood elites and the liberal elites. So this next video I have this is another stark comparison between the Republican, or rather the conservatives, I guess you would even call it, and the liberals, or the far lefties. I have Andrew Sorkin from CNBC, a lefty. He's a New York Times writer. He is of the left. And then you got Rick Santelli. And this is, I got this off Bongino.com. I will leave it in the show notes. And, yeah, this is a fiery exchange between the two of them. And this is the comparison between the conservative and the liberal right now at this point. Play that clip.
Can't tell me that shutting down, which is the easiest answer, is necessarily the only answer.
Rick, I just as a public health and public service announcement for the audience, the difference between a big box retailer.
Who is this?
Hold on. The difference between it's Andrew.
Who else?
The difference between a big box retailer. Hold on. The difference between a big box retailer and a restaurant, or frankly even a church, are so different. It's unbelievable. Going into a big box retailer,
I disagree.
You're wearing a mask.
You can have your thoughts and I can have mine.
You're required to wear a mask.
I disagree.
It's science. I'm sorry. It's science. If you're
It's
wearing a
not
mask,
science.
it's a different story.
500 people in a Lowe's aren't any safer than 150 people in a restaurant that holds 600. I don't believe it. Sorry. Don't believe
Okay.
it. And I live in an area where there's a lot of restaurants that have fought back and they don't have any problems. And they're open.
Okay. You don't have to believe it. But let me just say this. You're doing a disservice to the viewer, because the viewers need to understand it.
You are doing a disservice to the viewer. You are. You are.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I would like to keep our viewers as healthy as humanly possible. The idea of packing people into restaurants.
I think our viewers are smart enough to make part of those decisions on their own. I don't think that I'm much smarter than all the viewers like some people do.
About time someone speaks up for the little guy there. That's Rick Santelli. If anybody is not familiar with Rick Santelli, he was almost known to start the Tea Party movement. He had this huge speech. I think it was this rant he went on when he was on CNBC. I think he was on Wall Street when he was ranting about it. I don't really know. He was just talking about how the government has done a terrible job and how they created the bubble in the housing market at the time. And I think at that time it was like 2008. I believe, but yeah. So this shows the comparison between the Republican and the Democrat, or rather the conservative and the liberal. So what Santelli's saying is, why is it a one-size-fits-all approach? Why is it that these people can open, these can't? Why is it that you can only have 10 people in this place when it's huge? And then the other place you can have 15 and it'll be small. He's really just challenging the system that they have, that one size fits all. It is not a comprehensive system. It's not fair. And then Andrew Sorkin is going, oh, well, it's different. A big box retailer is different than going to a religious place of worship, or what was the other one that he was talking about? I don't remember. Honestly, it doesn't even matter. It's trivial to the point here. But the point, especially the house of worship, I don't even know how you can find that argument when the First Amendment's right there, right next to you. I don't know how you can even find that argument. But that's the liberals. The lefties, they don't care. These lefties on these news stations, they truly don't care about the Constitution. It's meaningless to them. It is inexpedient to them. It is not convenient. The fact that it is in its existence. Spit it out, Jesus. But it's a shame. I mean, at the very end, then Andrew Sorkin goes to the classic lefty thing. Well, I just care about lives, and you don't care about lives. You're doing a disservice to all the people. As if everyone that's watching and all the people in the country are stupid, and we cannot differentiate, or we can't discern a issue or we cannot do a risk assessment every single day when we walk outside. We get in our car to drive. We can't do a risk assessment in anything. When I go to get my cheeseburger at McDonald's, I'm unaware that's unhealthy food, or I'm unaware that it is a risk to get in my car and drive to work every day, or I am unaware walking into a health clinic to go get health care. I'm unaware of all of these different risks that I take in everyday life. And it's just it's the stark comparison between the two, because then at the very end, Santelli says, well, I don't think I'm elitist. I don't think I'm smarter than anybody else. I think people are smart enough to make their own decisions. And Andrew Sorkin obviously does not agree with him. He feels like he, as this anointed media person, can make decisions for you, the average American. That is the way that the lefties feel right now in the mainstream and the legacy media. That is their MO. So next, what I have here is this is to shift over further to show more and more leftist hypocrisy here. Teachers Union is now arguing that it's racist to go back to school. I got this from Bongino.com, and now it is written by Matt Palumbo. It is titled "Teachers Unions Now Arguing It's Racist and Sexist to Keep Schools Open." So I think this is in Chicago. You have a teachers union that's freaking out because they're going to open the schools back up, because God forbid these kids in the inner cities actually get a good education. God forbid that actually happens for them, and maybe it can help them get out of the situation that they're in living in the inner cities. So this is a tweet here, this visual I got up, and this is the Chicago Teachers Union, and they tweeted December 6th, in the middle of the day, the push to reopen schools is rooted in sexism, racism, and misogyny. Now, inevitably, this tweet was widely mocked, and the union eventually deleted it and claims to be thankful for the ridicule from those in the struggle, presumably in the struggle of not going to work. This is pretty much just like a sarcastic joke by Palumbo that he makes. And it continues this piece here. And this is where he explains the true hardships that a lot of these kids have been going through right now, going through this online learning. He states, and I quote, "And just as that racial justice issue would disproportionately help whites, this example of racism, sexism, and misogyny would disproportionately benefit minorities. The NWEA, which is formerly known as the Northwest Evaluation Association, recently analyzed the results of their tests given to nearly 4.4 million students in grades 3 to 8, and found most scoring 5 to 10 percentile points below students who took the same test the year prior in math. While most students performed the same in reading, this wasn't true for Black and Hispanic students and those who attend high poverty schools. Those groups of students saw slight declines, suggesting the pandemic has exacerbated long-standing educational disparities, possibly setting children who were already behind their white and more affluent peers even further behind." Now that is something that is reported by, like I said, the NWEA, which is Northwest Evaluation Association. That's a third party there. So they're pretty much saying that white kids really they're being affected by this, but not in the same way that Black and Hispanic students are. They're having a much harder time with the online learning. It is exacerbating the disparity that they already had to begin with, because when you, especially now at this point, we're doing almost a full year of online learning, and the very first half of this, a lot of these school systems were not prepared. They did not have protocols and procedures in place for this exact scenario to happen where everything went online. So you had almost a half year of school that was a total joke for these kids. Let's say you were going into from third grade to fourth grade. Now these kids are going to fourth grade and they are at like a second grade reading level because they never even really finished third grade. And now it continues. And as for the equally absurd allegation that reopening schools is misogynist, the Chicago Teachers Union should try making that argument to the over 860,000 plus women that have had to drop out of the labor force to take care of their kids during the day. So, yeah, this was just a really stupid tweet. I don't know why they would have put this up, and the people in Chicago are actually they're protesting. The teachers union is protesting over this, having to go back and do their jobs. They're protesting over having to do their jobs. That's what's going on right now. So next what I have, and it's everything is just so ironic because these teachers unions really make it like they're out for the kids. They're not out for the kids. These teachers make it like, oh yeah, we're fighting against racism. They're not fighting against racism. And they like to make it like they're these social justice warriors, and they virtue signal, oh, I just really care about the kids. I care about this. I care about... No, you don't. You just don't want to go back to work. It is what it is. Teachers unions are horrible. They should be actually, especially in public funding, because these are all publicly funded amenities going to school and things of that nature. That is publicly funded, so I'm not a huge fan of public sector unions to begin with. And really, they should be eradicated at this point. Everything that has happened over the last 8 to 9 months shows that we should have gotten rid of teachers' unions a long time ago, because the kid does not come first, the teacher comes first, and the union comes first. The bureaucracy of the union is really what comes before anything. And there's some teachers that want to go back, but they're, but they are the silent voices, and the loudest ones are the ones that don't want to go back to school, obviously, because they have the backing of the union. The loudest voices are always the ones, in general, that have the backing of the union, because other people that don't have that backing and that support and that foundation from the union, they're afraid to speak up unless if they have some serious conviction. And that is always the way it's worked for me in my experience. I've been part of 3 different unions now, and that's how it has always worked. There's always been people that disagree with the union that were underlings, but they would not say anything because they would stay in their place because they were afraid of the union, the backlash. Oh, next here is and just keep this in mind. These are the people that are supposed to be teaching kids. So, and this one's much more of a pathetic article I have here. This is it's titled "San Diego School Teachers Offered White Privilege Training Where Participants Commit to Being Anti-Racist." The training sessions were first revealed by journalist Christopher F. Rufo. Now, this is also going to be in the description below. Fox News article. And so the teachers undergoing the training must acknowledge that they are living on land, the United States, that was stolen from Native Americans. Now, first off, the land was stolen by... To begin with, Native Americans were stealing land from each other. There was constant infighting. They were killing each other. When, if you actually read it, when Columbus first got here, Columbus befriended a Native American group and fought against other Native Americans with this alongside these Native American group, because that other Native American group, I think they were called the Caribs because it was in the Caribbean. They called them the Caribs. They were eating other Native Americans. They were a cannibalistic Native American group. So Native Americans, none of this land, the land over years, if you gave it 200 years, you would have one Native American group living there, and then one would come slaughter the other one, pull their hearts out while they were still beating while they were alive. Certain groups were the Mayans were barbaric in a lot of the behavior they had. So to make it like Native Americans, like it was one general giant group, and Americans and people just came in here and colonized the whole... That's not really how it worked. There was constant infighting amongst the Native American tribes, all different. Some tribes were much more civil than others. Others were more barbaric. So that's not the way in which it worked. It was not one monolith. The Native Americans are not a monolith. There's many different tribes and subsects. Now, they are required in this white privilege training. They're required to watch clips of Robin DiAngelo, author of the book White Fragility, and Ibram X. Kendi, author of the book How to Be an Anti-Racist. After that, the teachers are told they are racist and upholding racist ideas, structures, and policies, and must commit to being anti-racist in the classroom. Now, this is something that is this is absurd. This is insane. These people are dancing in absolute insanity. This is straight out of a Communist Manifesto, things like this. Now, they attribute the Communist Manifesto, it attributes any type of equity as an inequity, meaning like if there is no equity, then it automatically must mean that this person stole something from the other. and that's not actually how a merit-based system works in America. That could be how it works, but that's not how it works in America in a general sense. Now, there may be some sort of anecdotal examples, or, one guy stealing another guy's car. Yeah, now that guy has a nice car. He did steal it from the other guy, but that's not something that is consistently happening and widespread and pervasive amongst our society. That is not true. So they will take that inequity that is currently going on, and they will attribute it automatically to racism, or they will attribute it automatically to some sort of structure or some sort of policy that automatically, but they'll say things like systematic racism, which is a very broad statement, but they won't be able to actually define the racism that they're referring to. Law-wise, they really can't find one, because they're if you're saying systematic racism, you would assume it would be some sort of a law or some sort of a provision, but it seems like there is not one from what I've seen, from what I understand. I'd be glad to, if you can point out some sort of racist policy or some sort of racist law, I would be glad to stand on the Hill with you and fight against it. But this is just a bunch of BS that they're teaching these teachers, and they believe that, we are a majority minority district with a majority white teacher workforce. Maureen Maggie, the school district's spokeswoman, told Fox News in an email, the ability to hold honest conversations about race with grace is important, which is why we offered the training and why so many teachers elected to enroll. Our students benefit from being able to talk about race and other difficult issues, regardless of their background. Most of all, we believe every open and sincere conversation about race, no matter how it begins, provides an opportunity to learn from one another, for hearts to open and for minds to grow. I think this is not a way for minds to grow. I think that this is a cancer. I think this leftism, this progressive ideology, where any type of inequity automatically should be attributed from one person being bad to the other, I think it is vile. It is disgusting, and it also just is not. It's not founded in any type of statistics or any type of fact or empirical evidence or empirical data, because everybody is an individual. Instead of lumping everyone into groups, everyone has their own individualism about them. To lump in groups and generalize is something that it's not progressive, it's regressive thinking. So, and that's another thing I want to state about that Sorkin what is his name, Santelli video, when Santelli keeps yelling, it's the science. It's, once again, that's just a broad term. They just throw it out there. They just throw out, it's the science. Okay, dude. Well, how about you prove the science? How about you come out with some statistical analysis? He's talking about masks in this and no mask. What are you talking about? People, when they go to church, if they're required to wear the mask, they're going to wear the mask to church as well, just the same as they would to a big box retailer. So what's the difference? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I've yet to see a mask study where they're talking about masks actually preventing aerosolized particles from leaving your mouth, because they can't find one. So they just say, once again, they say the broad statement, the science, and they don't ever have to prove it, or they don't have to bring up any type of empirical data or any type of study to support them. They just say it, and the left-wing media will cover it no matter what, and they will mainstream it everywhere. Google will make it pop up in the algorithm. YouTube, same thing. They'll make it just keep popping up everywhere. So there is no dissenting opinion like one of my own, in which I have. And that's the reason for why I do this podcast. I've said this before. The reason for why I do this podcast is because I want to show people there is a dissenting opinion, and it is not rooted in just some sort of talking point. It is rooted in scientific data. It is rooted in empirical evidence. It is rooted in constitutional values and American elements. So next, what we have, next segment, and this one's interesting. This one's pretty cool, too. The Republicans make historical gains in the state governments. Now, the link it's at Bongino.com. Once again, it'll be in the description. Now, I got a tweet from a Bruce Melman that's up on the screen there. Democrats appear likely to hold their smallest House majority since 1875 to 1877. So it's a very small majority right now that the Democrats have. as you can see here, right before the well, I guess right after the Great Depression, from that to the World War II, they held a very high majority. They held a pretty big majority, it looks like, in maybe the 80s, that is. And then the last couple years, you've seen a pretty big Republican majority, and then the Democrats won it back, or they flipped it back around 2 years ago. The reason in which they actually flipped it back around, because they lost in the Senate, they lost, like, I think 2 or 3 seats. They turned around the House of Representatives. Everyone was like, oh, it was a big blue wave. That's not what happened. A bunch of incumbents that were Republicans, they all stepped down. And that's how Democrats gained seats. And that's why Democrats gained a bunch of seats in the House of Reps. But in the Senate, they actually lost seats. And the Senate's actually more important. There's more political power behind that position, because there's only 100 of them, and the House of Reps is 435. And so prior research has already shown that Republican-controlled states tend to be in better fiscal shape than their Democrat counterparts. According to a study from Truth in Accounting on the fiscal health of the states in 2020, the 5 most indebted states and their unfunded liabilities per taxpayer were, and this is very important, everybody listen to this, anybody that is a New Jersey listener, I want you all to know how deep we are in debt and how terribly run this state is into the ground. New Jersey is number 1. Per taxpayer, we owe negative $57,900. So each taxpayer individually, if you broke down how much debt we have, each taxpayer owes $57,900. So for Illinois, it's $52,000. For Connecticut, it's $50,000. For Hawaii, it's $31,000. And for Massachusetts, it's $30,000. Now, all 5 of those states are solidly blue in presidential elections, and all have Democrat governors except for Massachusetts. And even Massachusetts, I mean, it's a blue state. The Republican governor of Massachusetts is pretty much a liberal lefty, just like when Mitt Romney was there. He is a milquetoast Republican. He is a rhino. Democrats control both chambers of Congress in all 5 states' legislatures, and that's something I want to clear up. I think New Jersey, I kept saying, I don't know why I was perpetuating this. I said it over and over again in the past videos, but I was saying the legislature of New Jersey had 250 members. I don't know why I was saying that. And then I ended up looking it up, and it was like 80. There's 40 different districts, and each one has 2 legislatures. So I believe the number's 80. Not that it really matters, because I would just use the number to do, like, mathematical equations. But so all 5 states in the best fiscal shape are solidly red in presidential elections, and all have Republican governors. Republicans have a slim majority in Alaska's House and Senate, but have supermajorities in both chambers in North Dakota, Tennessee, Utah, and Wyoming. And you'll know why I'm mentioning all of those. A certain pattern is noticeable here. That's what Palumbo puts up. So in each, and this is amazing, so there's a surplus in these 5 states, and these 5 states are all Republican. They vote very red. Their governors are red, I'm pretty sure, across the board. Yeah, all have Republican governors. And then there's a slim majority of Republicans in the Alaska House. So Alaska, for each individual taxpayer, they have a surplus of $77,000. So if they wanted to, they would be able to actually just take $77,000 out for each taxpayer they have and send them a check for that much money, and then they would still break even at the end of this year. North Dakota has $37,000 per taxpayer, Wyoming $19,000, Utah $5,500, Tennessee $3,400. So these are all surpluses in the system. And Alaska is substantial. I think it's partially because they are actually paying people to go to Alaska, just to try to get their economy maybe going. I don't know. I remember reading something weird. I think maybe that's why it's so high, but I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on it. But yeah, that's it right there. You have, there's other gains that they have too off this site. If I can find it, it's substantial. The Republicans in a lot of state legislatures have been doing very well from what it looks like. They've been very effective, in the state oh yeah, here we go. Republicans now have if I can get this link going here. Republicans now have a majority in both houses of 31 state legislatures. So out of 50 states, they have a majority in both houses of 31 state legislatures and hold the state Senate. The state Senate in Minnesota. Minnesota is the only state with split control of the legislature and is a good example of the frustration Democrats are feeling after their blue wave evaporated. The Democrats have legislative control in only 18 states, which is, I mean, that's a huge majority. They only have legislative control in 18 states, and furthermore, Republicans control the legislatures and governorships in 23 states with roughly 136 million citizens. By contrast, the Democrats only control the legislature and governorships in 15 states with 120 million, and 39 million of those are just in California alone, because that, like I said, California has a huge population. And so Republicans control the legislature in 7 states with Democratic governors, while Democrats only control the legislature in 3 states with Republican governors. So you're looking at, there's a Republican majority right now throughout state legislatures. So there's been something that the media doesn't really, they don't want to even talk about this, because this goes to show that the MAGA, the Make America Great Again message, as well as Trumpism, has actually succeeded. And it's been making our country, it's been changing our country around to a much more red country in terms of state legislators, governorships, majorities, with the exception of these far left, like the New York and the Californias and the New Jerseys of the world. With the exception of those, you're looking at a huge push towards the GOP. Now, this next one I have here, This is a video. Now, Matt Gaetz, the infamous Matt Gaetz, House of Representative from Florida. He has a lot of bombshell interviews. He's a fighter for the cause. He went on The View and pretty much made fun of Joy Behar. Told her that, oh no, that was Donald Trump Jr. No, yeah, he did go on The View though, Matt Gaetz, and he just went back and forth. He fought him on The View pretty hardcore. So he went to I guess it was a gala. Young Republican Club of New York held like a little banquet event, and they could not get a place in New York. So what they did was they went to Jersey City. They took the path, they took the PATH train to Jersey City, and so they held like a little event, and then it got out. Pictures got out, and then Governor Murphy was not too happy about it, and I have a video of that. Check this out.
I want you to go back to the group if you could, Mahan. That guy in the middle, the tall, handsome fellow in the gray suit, that is Representative Matt Gaetz. And based on his past performances, it is obvious being a knucklehead is not beyond the pale for him. He was actually Sarah Palin's backup act for this event. Now, if you go to the next kind of a scene, that's Matt again, earlier this year. Kind of a scene out of Dr. Strangelove. What a fool. He and they should be ashamed of themselves. He is not welcome. I hope you're watching, Matt. You are not welcome in New Jersey, and frankly, I don't ever want you back in this state. Now, to be sure, and Pat knows this, Jersey City law enforcement is currently investigating this matter, and we will assist their investigation in any way necessary and take action as appropriate.
So that's an abuse of political power. That's police state-like tactics. Oh, we're going to have Jersey City, we're going to have the Jersey City police investigating this action. What, the guy showing up to a gala with a bunch of... And when you mean young Republicans, I'm pretty sure that group is a group of college kids. I'm pretty sure that's what the young Republicans are. I'm not 100% sure, but I would like to think maybe from that picture that I see there, that visual, they may look a little older than that. But he's pretty much calling kids, you should be ashamed of yourselves. Hey, Murphy, how about you figure out how to run your state out of all of the debt that you have? You have the most debt in the entire union. Out of 50 states, you are the worst state. And that's really what you should be worried about. That's what you should be concerned with. You should also be concerned with your nursing home policy that killed many, I think 50% of our deaths in New Jersey alone are from nursing homes at least. I think it was something like 60 or 70% last time I checked it. I mean, you've done a horrible job governing this state. How about you worry about doing that rather than going after Representative Matt Gaetz in a political hit job during one of your stupid town hall events that you have every couple days to say how many people died and how terrible of a job you've been doing in this state government. I mean, it's like such a joke. This guy's a clown. And so after that, and the reason why I have that is it's a total gag. It's a big joke. But the more important thing that I have here is that Murphy has this new executive order that he pushed to make vaccinations opt-out. Meaning, usually when you go to get your vaccinations, by law, you don't have to opt into the state registry system. You have the choice. It's called an opt-in program, as in everything is off the books. As your private physician will most likely have your immunization records for every single shot or vaccination that you get. They will have those records for you, but you're not opted into the state registry program. But Murphy, now he has this new executive order that will automatically make COVID-19 vaccines opt out, meaning you will be automatically thrown into a state registry system when you go and you get the coronavirus vaccine. And then apparently after 30 days or something, you can opt out of that system. But at that point, the damage is already done. It's already in their system. They know that you at one point were in their system, or they still really are keeping a file on you. I thought this was a very interesting article. It is titled "New Jersey Orders Change to Streamline COVID-19 Vaccine Tracking as Hospitals Prepare for First Doses." And this should really truly give you an outlook or just an idea of what may be coming in the future. I'm just going to say that much for now. And this was December 5th. It was posted December 4th, updated December 5th. State officials say the goal is for at least 70% of New Jersey's adult population, or nearly 5 million residents, to be vaccinated. That means about 81,000 residents would have to be vaccinated each day for 5 days a week, or about 3,200 people a day for 5 days every week in each of the state's 21 counties. So you would need 3,200 5 days a week vaccinated in every single county. 3,200. So what is that, like 60,000 a day? Yeah, it's around 60,000 a day would need to be vaccinated. So Murphy has said the state will not recommend a vaccine unless it is deemed to be safe. Still, the governor warned that the vaccine's arrival does not mean New Jersey can flip a light switch and remove all restrictions. He states, "This is going to be more like a dimmer, and the light will get brighter and brighter over time," he said. "To get to full brightness, we will take months, and it will take millions of New Jerseyans getting vaccinated, and we're going to do all we can to ensure confidence in the vaccines we ultimately approve for distribution in our state. But an end can now be considered a when and not an if, and we can count it in months," Murphy added. And then he states, "We just have to hang on together a little longer, and that's because the virus is still moving throughout our state, and residents are still falling ill." So this is where I take issue here, is when you say, oh, the goal is to get 70% of New Jersey's adult population. So what are you going to do to get 70% of the adult population to take the vaccine? What happens if 70% of the population doesn't even want to take the vaccine? I want to say something like 60% of the population. From what I've seen in different polling, it's around 60 to 65% of the population is actually wants to take the vaccine. So you have 35% of the population, and I think this was in America, I'm pretty sure there's some of these polls, that don't even want to take the vaccine. So what are you going to do to get the rest of the people to go take that vaccine? That's the true question. What is the authoritarian move next? Because I'm not surprised. I will not be surprised if they will make it. And I've been seeing some things on conservative Facebook pages and on social media saying that they're going to try to make you quarantine in your house if you don't get it. I'm not exactly sure. It's unsubstantiated at this point. I've not seen any paperwork or any documentation or any type of a law that they're looking to pass. But everything, if you notice, in New Jersey in particular with Murphy, has been just executive orders down your throat, because that's what they do, because they can't get anything passed through the legislature, and they believe in total and totalitarian power. Now, Murphy said the change is very specific to the coronavirus vaccine. We've got to have everybody's information, he added. We have to have everybody's information, he added. The federal government needs it. We need it. You all should want it and need it so that we can track these dosages and make sure it is as safe and efficiently distributed as possible. We are ready for this moment. Now, that to me is very concerning, is, oh, we have to have all your information. You need to let the federal government know. You need to let everybody know what's going on. No, you don't. When these people call you There's this new weird app, I think, or something that's on your iPhone in the last iOS update. You can turn on notifications for if you were even close to somebody that had COVID, apparently, because they're tracking everybody now. That's what they're doing. They're doing like the police state Chinese tactics where they track everybody. The Chinese are pros on spying on their own citizens. That's what they, to me, that seems like that's what it is, and it should be concerning and troubling for anybody that fears the government and thinks that there's too much overreach and they're looking for a much more limited government system. I am very, very, I'm cognizant of what's going on here. I'm not feeling too confident in our system in terms of vaccinations. I'm not even saying the vaccination is ineffective. I'm not saying any of that. My problem is with the government compulsion, thinking that they can somehow compel you to do something that you don't want to do. And this is supposed to be the party of, the bodily autonomy. This is the party that, we provide abortions up to birth. You can kill a human life. You can kill, the woman can kill their child whenever they want to, but you need to also take the vaccine at the same time. And to begin with, I mean, human life in the womb, that life has a specific code of DNA. It has a specific chromosomal structure. That is a completely separate entity to the person that is carrying it. So that isn't even the same as saying, oh, well, you have to take this shot. That's not the shot conversation or the vaccine conversation is much more of a bodily autonomy than the abortion conversation, because the abortion conversation is you are killing a complete separate person. They're attached to you at this moment, but this is a person with their own specific DNA strands and DNA sets. This is a person that, as long as it's about 8 weeks old, they have their own central nervous system. They can feel pain. Beating heart starts, I think the heart and the brain starts to develop at like 5 weeks or something like that. It is a separate entity from the person, so there isn't really a bodily autonomy argument there. And as science has continued to come out more and more, it seems like there's been much more of a shutdown on the abortion front. It's just the whole my body, my choice thing. They just say that it's just a catchphrase. It's just something that's focus group tested. It's not really rooted in any type of scientific evidence or empirical data. If you look up the data, you'll find, if you look up a chart, the prenatal development chart. It's a prenatal development chart. You will see how quickly and how early that baby has developed a lot of their central nervous system, their spine, bone structure. I don't even want to think about it because it just disgusts me. But so the next thing I have here is. And this is the part where YouTube might ban me, and I just don't care, and this is why I'm reporting it at this point. So this next video is the Michigan woman testifying. She is an IT worker, and I'll explain why I put this in the video. Play that clip.
I'm just saying the numbers are not off by 30,000 votes. So
I know what I saw.
That they're filling in.
I know what I saw, and I signed something saying that if I'm wrong, I can go to prison. Did you?
Yeah, so the most important part about that little short snippet there is that's an IT worker in Michigan. She was testifying. There's a lot of allegations she was making. She was saying, the system, they were fake counting ballot. I mean, there's so many different things she was saying. But most importantly, for what she said, and everybody should keep this in mind when they look at any election fraud claims, all these sworn affidavits, is exactly what she said. Now, these sworn affidavits that are coming out, the media's trying to disprove every single one of them. They're using their little fake fact-checking sites that are really just liberal-leaning, leftist bias, garbage that they spew. You need to keep in mind exactly what she said, where she goes, I signed something saying, if I'm lying, I'm going to prison. Now, is anybody else doing that? In the media, is anybody else signing something saying, oh, we're going to go to prison if we lie about this article we put out? They put out articles, they constantly lie. They constantly embellish over-exaggerate things. They lie. They don't use things in the right context. They do, though. They just straight up lie all the time. It is consistent in their character. That's what they do in the media, and they will say, oh, well, they took that out of context, and then they'll say something is a lie. Snopes will say things that are lies that are opinions. You'll put out an opinion saying, oh, I don't like this person, and they'll put it out as a lie. So they're really not to be trusted. There's thousands of sworn affidavits that what the media is trying to do is disparage. And this woman started off her entire like little, I guess, rant you would call it. But she started off saying, really at this point, she's like, I have nothing to lose. They took my job. I think she got fired. She can't get a job. Because of this, she had to move. Her kids are getting harassed. She's getting harassed, death threats, the whole nine, pretty much everything that comes with when you come out like this, I guess, against the Democrat Party. You get tons of death threats. Who knows? Antifa, extremists. I don't know who's going after this woman. But this has happened to many of them. So these people are really putting their lives on the line every single time they go up there for a sworn affidavit, because everybody knows what ends up happening to people that speak against the DNC or the Democrat Party. There's a lot of these different conspiracy theories out there. Andrew Breitbart. There's things about that what's his name guy, the Epstein guy. I mean, there's a lot of these different conspiracy theories. So anyone that does go out there and speak up, you have to give them some sort of credit, at least, because they really are putting their lives on the line when they do that. Because they're willing to go after a guy like a Michael Flynn, 3-star general, about 40 years of service to the country. They're willing to go after him for some garbage Logan Act that has never been successfully enforced or convicted anybody on ever before, when other diplomats and other government officials are constantly violating the Logan Act, but they don't ever get charges pressed upon them because it is the discretion of the government, and the government is ran by establishment swamp rats. And if you're not an establishment swamp rat, like if you're somebody of some sort of rectitude or integrity, like a Mike Flynn, then they go after you. That's what happens to a guy that served in our military for 40 years, and I'm going to explain that this weekend. That's what they do to some of the most patriotic Americans in this country. They try to convict you of a garbage crime that isn't even a real crime, and then they try to also convict you on perjury charges of something that isn't even a crime that they were investigating. That was an unsubstantiated crime, that they got the warrant through an unsubstantiated manner, and they ran it through a firm called Perkins Coie, and they ran it through the Steele dossier that was really just fed to the CIA. The CIA, the CIA director Brennan already had the information. He threw it back into the CIA, and then he corroborated it additionally with the information he already had, because he was the one that threw it into the CIA to begin with. Because you need corroborating evidence when you get something like that, like the Steele dossier. You need some sort of corroboration in order to get a warrant. So they pretty much they created all their own information, and then they substantiated it by throwing it back into the intelligence community and just creating this perpetual circle where all the evidence comes back to them. And then they put it out. Oh, well, we can get it. Now we can go get our FISA warrant and go spy on these people. That's what happened to Mike Flynn. So these people, you have to give them credit for coming out and at least trying to maintain our republic that we have right now and try to be honest. So what she says to me holds much more weight than some hack job up on Capitol Hill. Because at least she's got some skin in the game. The hack job at Capitol Hill, no matter what they say, they know they're protected by the swamp at all times and the establishment, because that's who they are. That is their nature. This next segment I have here, it's going to be an infographic from the Epoch Times. This is very critical here. I'm leaving it in the description. It's going to be on Twitter. It is a picture that the Epoch Times themselves put on their Twitter feed, and it is just a synopsis, a summation of all of the different types of voter fraud that occurred, or the allegations of voter fraud that occurred. You got just to read a couple of them off. You got the backdating of ballots in the city of Detroit. You have 98% for Biden in sworn affidavits filed in Georgia. A poll watcher with 20 years of experience says she was surprised to find batches of pristine ballots during the state's recount. and noted that markings of the candidates on those ballots were unusually uniform. And this was something that I mentioned before. The poll watcher estimated that 98% of these were all Biden votes, which is just unrealistic. It does not hold up statistically that would happen. Now, the outdated operating system, they're talking about the Dominion voting system, how it has not been updated in 4 years and carries a wide range of well-known and publicly disclosed vulnerabilities. The experts noted that the server appeared to be an ad hoc operation with no formalized process. And this is what I thought was very interesting, this one, because I haven't actually read this one before. Broken certification process. The Federal Election Assistance Commission, EAC for short, is responsible for the certification of all voting machines used in the United States. The agency, however, is so small that in 2017, senators sent a letter to the EAC raising concerns about the fact that the agency employs only one full-time staff member dedicated to overseeing the certification process. So you only have one guy working in this. You create this EAC, this commission, and you only have one employee, and that person by themselves is in charge of certifying all the voting machines in the country. It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, how quickly could that one person be corrupted? It's just one guy. So you also have poll watchers obstructed. Republican poll watchers in Philly, Detroit, and other major cities say they were obstructed from properly observing the handling and counting of ballots. Poll watchers say that they were told to stand back. So far, they couldn't see anything that was happening, and that in some cases, ballots were handled in rooms to which they had no access. Other poll watchers said they were denied access despite having proper credentials. According to Giuliani, lawyer of Trump, in Pennsylvania alone, there were more than 682,000 mail-in ballots that were entered that were not observed by any single Republican. One Philadelphia poll worker said the vast majority of mail-in ballots were processed 15 to 200 plus feet away from us. Pretty much you can't see. Pretty much these poll watchers couldn't see anything that was going on. There was no or lack signature verification, so there was no verification of signatures. As you can see, there was a very low rejection rate. That's another thing, is they note that 0.15% of rejection rate in 2020 general election compared to a 0.28% rejection rate in the 2016 election. So you're looking at a double, you cut the rejection rate about in half. And there's even crazier, I think it was in Detroit, where it's even crazier, where it's like a factor of 10, like, 0.02% of the ballots were kicked out because they couldn't verify the signatures compared to the regular 2% that they usually kick out. So you're looking at like a factor of 10. So there's a lot of stuff here. I highly suggest you either save it for your files personally. So anytime that anyone comes up to you and says there's no voter fraud, you can literally just whip this right out. It's right there. I mean, these are all the sworn affidavits, pretty much in summation. There's a bunch of them here. And next, what I have is Nevada fraud. There's a Nevada voter fraud, and it was December 2nd. This was written, Washington Secrets columnist Paul Bedard. He's pretty renowned. This is written in the Washington Examiner. Now, Nevada fraud, 1,500 dead voters, 42,248 voted multiple times, and they claimed their RV camps were their homes. So it reads, the Trump campaign on Wednesday unveiled a tranche of information it plans to present to a Nevada state court Thursday that suggests there were thousands of fraudulent votes cast, possibly enough to overturn Joe Biden's win there by 33,569 votes. Officials said that among the evidence and expert testimony to be presented in Carson City are indications that over 1,500 ballots were cast by dead voters, that 42,248 people voted multiple times, data on a huge spike in incomplete voter registrations, and home addresses in temporary RV camps and casinos. They also plan to present polling that 1% of Nevada voters shown to have voted never did, and 2% of those shown to have voted by mail never got a ballot. So even 1% and 2% really could win an election, which is why those really small percentages are actually, they're meaningful. Now, their focus has been in Democratic-heavy Clark County, where Biden won 90,000 votes. Biden won 521,000 to President Trump's 430,000. Oh, so that's where he beat him by 90,000. So by contrast, in 2016, Trump won 511,000 votes and lost it to Hillary Clinton by just 26,000 votes. So you're telling people that now you have 80,000 people that did not vote for Trump in that same county, and somehow you turn those over to Joe Biden, I guess. I don't know. Doesn't really make any sense to me. So that's just another one there. I mean, there's so many different cases. It seems like the Supreme Court is not acting on anything. They are looking pretty gutless right now. They look like they do not really care about upholding our Constitution. They don't even want to go into an investigation, or they don't even want to hear a case. And I'm being told from what I've read that if it does get to the Supreme Court, you got Ted Cruz coming in hot. He is ready to debate. He does not care. He is down for the cause. Ted Cruz, you can say whatever you want about him. He is kind of politicky when he talks. He's highly intelligent. He's probably the smartest guy on the right in terms of his legal mind as well as his political acumen. He's a highly intelligent individual. Alan Dershowitz, who was like I think he was Clinton's lawyer in the Lewinsky scandal. He was his lawyer. I'm not 100% sure, but he said that his smartest student ever was Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz got mental acuities off the charts. So that's going to be interesting. And I want to say he's gone to the Supreme Court maybe 10, 11 times. He's only lost once when he goes up there and presents a case. So that should be awesome if it ends up happening. I really hope it does. So next what I have, and I'm going to close the show on this here, is a James O'Keefe video. James O'Keefe, MSNBC is covering him. And just check this out.
On Tuesday, the conservative activist James O'Keefe logged into a private CNN teleconference. O'Keefe's group, Project Veritas, live streamed the call. It included him interrupting CNN's president, Jeff Zucker, to question him about the network's journalistic integrity. CNN says it believes this may have been a felony. A statement says it's reported the incident to law enforcement. Project Veritas says it's trying to expose the mainstream media's liberal biases. It continued to release clips from CNN's editorial calls with some help from Fox News host Sean Hannity. Media outlets have enough to deal with after what have been a divisive 4 years. Attacks on the press are nothing new, but they've amped up with claims of fake news, and many reports show hardening attitudes towards journalists. The First Amendment lets the press publish what it wants, biased or not. Snooping on CNN's editorial process impedes that right. Journalism always has room to improve, and there's already a good way to fight bias on TV. Change the channel.
This is classic hypocrisy by the media, MSNBC. I think they're a little bit worried about James O'Keefe coming after them next. I think he tweeted something like, "Oh, it looks like MSNBC is worried. Maybe they're next." He said something like that. Now, they went up, anybody that is listening and not watching, they put up on the screen the First Amendment, and they said, "Oh, well, him impeding, James O'Keefe impeding," that they're trying to imply that he is violating their First Amendment, which he's not. I'm sure that when it comes to recording phone conversations, I'm pretty sure it depends on whether or not your state is a one-party or a two-party consent state. In this, now, two-party consent meaning that both parties have to consent to this recording. One-party consent meaning whoever's recording is the party that is automatically consenting to this call or this video. While they were recording James O'Keefe, I'm sure they were smart enough to record in a place where it is a one-party consent state. I'm sure, because there's very few two-party consents. I don't exactly remember which ones are and which ones aren't. But yeah, so they're afraid of James O'Keefe. they try to imply that he is breaking their First Amendment, and then CNN saying, "Oh, we got our legal analysts on it," like they're going to sue him. They're not going to sue him. Even if they do, he's going to win in court. He knows he's going to win in court. And guess what? James O'Keefe has now doubled down. If you want to go onto his Twitter, James O'Keefe every single day has been releasing like an advent calendar. Every single press conference, every morning press conference that happened from, I think, starting in like October. Or not even, no, it was I think starting in September. He's going to release like September to October all the press conferences. I mean all the morning phone conferences that they had trying to set up what their show was going to be all about, meaning, where Jeff Zucker was really going to tell them, and they were no longer going to be independent journalists. He was just going to tell them what to report, because that's exactly what transpired in all of these meetings and all of these phone conferences. And it seems like MSNBC is afraid of that, and it's just the dishonesty of our media and our media class. They're saying, "Oh, well, you can't impede. They can say it whether it's biased or not in our media." Actually, you really can't. There's a lot of laws in terms of there's libel laws. There are laws in the books where if you're defaming someone's character, whether it's biased or not, you actually can. You have the right to sue them in our newspapers. Now, so to make it like, there's an unlimited, where there is no type of boundary to your freedom of press, that's not actually the truth. That's the first thing. The second thing is, so CNN can practice their freedom of press, but James O'Keefe isn't allowed to practice his freedom of press. It's the same thing. The guy's doing the exact same thing as CNN's doing. So that's just a double standard from the media. They're trying to imply that there's a first. Nothing will come from this. If they decide to sue him, they will not win. They will not win no matter what they do, because it's something that they did. They were showing how journalistically, how they have no integrity, and this guy was able to infiltrate you guys because you're a poorly ran organization full of numbskull idiots. And it's on you, and to try to push a lawsuit, this guy's smarter than all of you, and he's been running circles around you this entire time. He already thought, he's 10 steps ahead of them. He already knows that there's going to be, if they're going to go for a lawsuit, he already has lawyers on retainer. So that will conclude this one. That was just an update. Anyone that's interested in seeing James O'Keefe expose CNN, you can go to his Twitter. And so if this gets banned on YouTube, I will still be on all of my podcasting platforms. You can pretty much get me anywhere. Apple Podcast. I'm on Spotify. I'm on iHeart. I'm on I think Breaker, it's called. I'm almost on all of them. I'm on like 9 or 10 different podcast platforms. I'll be on YouTube unless they kick me off. Like I said, I'll be on Rumble. So please like, share, subscribe. I greatly appreciate everyone tuning in, and make sure you listen to it's going to be a weekend special. Most likely it's going to probably drop on Sunday, Saturday night going into Sunday, because I'll be doing the editing. So on Sunday it'll probably drop, and that one's going to be a real bombshell. Or rather, it's just going to be very, very interesting. You're going to have General Flynn. There's a lot of exciting topics that I'm going to present to everybody. So thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. And I'm going to see everyone on Friday with a Federalist paper. And I'll see everyone on Sunday as well with the weekend special. Take care.